The black microbe liquid that made my garden explode, 10 times bigger harvests. If you've been gardening long enough, you eventually stumble across one thing that completely changes the way you grow. For me, it wasn't a fancy store-bought fertilizer or a complicated greenhouse setup. It was something far simpler, a thick black microbe-loaded liquid that I brewed in a bucket right in my backyard. This wasn't just another homemade fertilizer. The first season I used it, my tomatoes doubled in size, my peppers set fruit weeks earlier, and my squash vines practically sprinted out of the soil. My harvest didn't improve a little, it exploded, and as someone who tests and documents soil methods for Soilpower, I knew I had stumbled onto something gardeners deserve to understand deeply. Today I'm sharing the exact science, method and application behind this black microbe liquid, why it works so powerfully, and how you can start using it to transform your garden, starting this week. Why this black liquid works when other fertilizers don't. Here's something I say often on Soilpower. Plants don't just need nutrients, plants need living soil. Most gardeners focus on feeding the plant, but the gardeners who consistently get big, beautiful, reliable harvests, they feed the soil. This black microbe liquid works so well because it's essentially a soil ecosystem starter, a living brew full of beneficial microbes, organic acids, natural enzymes and long-lasting nutrients. And the secret ingredient that makes this liquid different from compost tea or manure water is biochar. Biochar is like a microscopic apartment building for soil life. It's full of tiny pores, and when you charge those pores with compost-rich nutrients and living microbes, the result is a slow-release, soil-transforming powerhouse that keeps feeding your garden for seasons, not days. Regular compost teas are great, but they wash through the soil quickly. This blend captures the nutrients, holds them, and slowly releases them, all while strengthening the soil's structure and microbial life. Once I understood this, everything clicked. I wasn't just adding fertilizer, I was building a living, breathing soil community that supports massive, reliable, long-term plant health. Understanding the two key components, compost and biochar, to truly appreciate how powerful this liquid is, you need to understand what each component brings to the table. Compost, is really the source of life in the garden. Good compost is just packed with microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, actinomycetes, and protozoa. When you soak compost in water, these microbes and their nutrients get extracted into the solution. And honestly, that's what gives the liquid its immediate plant-feeding power. But, here's the thing, compost alone is pretty temporary. Nutrients become available fast, but the soil doesn't really hold on to them for long, especially if you've got sandy soils or areas where there's heavy rainfall. Now, biochar is what I like to call the long-term engine. It's carbon-rich, incredibly stable, and full of these microscopic pores. On its own, it doesn't do much for fertility, honestly, but once you charge it with compost, it turns into a microbial bank, absorbing life and nutrients, then releasing them over months and even years. So, think of compost as the spark, and a charged biochar as the battery that keeps the system powered. Blending these two in a liquid form gives gardeners something balanced, powerful, and, long-lasting. Not a quick hit, not a miracle claim, but real soil improvement grounded in solid science. Exactly how to make the black microbe liquid. I've tested versions of this recipe for years on Soilpower, and honestly, this ratio produces the richest, most effective liquid. Okay, so here's what you'll need. 2 kilograms of compost or fully decomposed manure, 1 kilogram of crushed biochar, 15 liters of clean water, a 5-gallon bucket, a second container for the biochar, and, a fine cloth or mesh for straining. When handling dry biochar, I always recommend wearing a mask because the dust can get airborne pretty easily. Start by creating your compost infusion. Add your compost to 15 liters of water, stir it thoroughly, and just let it rest for a bit. This step helps extract the microbes and organic compounds into the water. In a separate container, go ahead and soak your biochar completely underwater. As it hydrates, the pores open up, preparing to absorb nutrients from the compost infusion. After about 24 to 48 hours, you can combine the two. The liquid will turn thick, dark, and rich, almost ink-like. This is exactly what you want. Strain the mixture to remove large particles, and make sure to reserve the concentrated liquid. This concentrate is really powerful, so remember to dilute it before using. So, every time I show this method on Soilpower, people ask me the same questions. How often do I apply it? How much should I dilute it? And, well, what's the best method for fruiting plants? The dilution ratio is actually pretty straightforward. Use 1 part concentrate to 10 parts water. This makes it strong enough to stimulate growth but, still gentle enough to protect roots and delicate young plants. For root application, which is honestly the most important use, just pour the diluted liquid slowly around the base of each plant. Roots will absorb nutrients immediately, and the charged biochar will stay behind to support long-term fertility. Within a few weeks, I usually see thicker stems, faster new growth, stronger flowering, and increased fruit set. The difference is especially noticeable in tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, leafy greens, and fruit trees. Foliar application, or the fast-acting boost, is really something. Spraying the diluted liquid onto plant leaves gives them direct access to some nutrients. Plants can absorb certain compounds through their stomata, making foliar feeding useful during flowering and early fruiting. I spray early in the morning or late afternoon to avoid leaf burn and help the microbes survive. Used together, root feeding and foliar feeding create a strong, balanced push toward higher yields and healthier soil. Here's where this method truly stands apart from other fertilizers. Most commercial fertilizers give plants a temporary boost and then vanish. They feed the plant, but they do nothing for the soil's biology or structure. This black microbe liquid does the opposite. It improves soil in 3 major ways that compound over months and years. First, it increases microbial life. Soil microbes break down organic matter, release nutrients, form soil aggregates, and help roots absorb minerals. Strong soil biology means strong plants. Second, the biochar remains in the soil season after season. It doesn't break down quickly like compost does. It holds nutrients, improves water retention, and provides permanent housing for microbes. Third, the soil becomes richer, darker, softer, and more resilient. I've seen sandy soil turn crumbly and fertile. I've seen clay loosen up dramatically. I've seen drought stress decrease and yields stabilize, even in unpredictable weather. Every time you apply this liquid, you're compounding the improvement, like adding a deposit to a savings account that grows interest all year long. Why do gardeners see such dramatic, almost shocking results? Well, most gardeners who try this liquid, report the same things. Their plants become greener within just a few days. Fruiting plants start producing earlier than before. Harvests increase noticeably within a single season. The soil actually looks and feels richer, and their plants become more resilient to heat, pests, and even inconsistent watering. This isn't magic, it's biology. Plants evolved to grow in living soil, soil teeming with microbes, fungal networks, organic compounds, and nutrient-cycling organisms. When you provide that environment, plants stop surviving and start thriving. And if you're growing vegetables, fruit, herbs, or flowers on a small space, improving soil life is the fastest and most powerful way to get bigger, better harvests without spending money on synthetic fertilizers. Who can use this method? Everyone, from first-time gardeners to experts. One thing I love about this technique is how universal it is. If you're a beginner, this gives your soil an immediate head start, and if you're experienced, this takes your fertility management to a deeper level. It works in raised beds, in-ground gardens, containers, homesteads, orchards, and even indoor setups, as long as you dilute properly. It's simple, affordable, and massively effective, and because it's a natural method, it supports everything you're trying to build, not just fast growth, but long-term soil health. So, here are my final thoughts. This black microbe-packed liquid isn't just another trend, it's honestly one of the most powerful, practical, and affordable garden fertilizers you can make at home. It feeds your plants, strengthens your soil, and, offers year-round benefits with just a few ingredients in a bucket. If you're serious about boosting your harvest and building soil that gets better every season, this method really deserves a permanent place in your gardening routine. And if you enjoy practical, proven soil-focused techniques like this, make sure you stick with Soilpower. We test, we experiment, we share, and we learn together. That's honestly how we grow better gardens. Subscribe to Soilpower, leave a comment, and share this article with someone who loves gardening as much as you do. Let's build living soil, one garden at a time.